Quick, what is your favorite ride at Universal? No, your favorite roller coaster at Universal, because let's be honest, it's definitely a roller coaster. Most of you, I would assume, would pick the correct answer, that being Velocicoaster, because it's Velocicoaster. Come on, it's one of the most praised rides of all time. Whenever I hear anyone talk about Velocicoaster, the conversation kind of sounds like, oh, Velocicoaster, that's my favorite roller coaster in the world.
Disney
I think
sucks
I lost
because
my
they don't
virginity
have
to
Velocicoaster.
Velocicoaster is by far the crown jewel of Islands of Adventure. No, Universal Orlando as a whole. At least until I get on Stardust, then I might change my opinion. But other than Velocicoaster, there is one other ride at Universal that I would say has a decent enough following. In fact, its following might be greater than Velocicoaster. A certain ride that predated Velocicoaster and is arguably the prime reason people even go to this park. A little old ride by the name of Hagrid's. Oh, I love Hagrid's. Great family coaster. Oh, and then there's another roller coaster at this park. I think it's named the Hulk or something. The Incredible Hulk is a strong number 3 for Islands of Adventure. A very intense ride with a killer soundtrack. But it's not my favorite. It's fun, but it's not my favorite. Ever since the ride's conception back in 1999, it was always meant to be that flagship ride for Islands of Adventure. It was the first attraction you saw right there when you walked up to the entrance. And the coaster itself, it had a presence. There was always a train cycling the track every 30 seconds, and you can always hear that iconic roar as the ride vehicle launched out of the tunnel. In a way, I can't imagine Islands without this coaster. It opened with the park, it's still running great, and it looks like going forward, Universal, they have no intention on removing this ride, and that's fantastic. I love that. The Hulk kind of represents a different era of Universal. An era where Universal, they were still finding their footing. When Universal was first developed, they didn't just want to be another Disney park. They didn't want to be a strictly family-friendly establishment. They wanted to appeal to teens and adults. They wanted big, high-intensity thrill rides. Something kids can aspire to, work towards, get on this big metal contraption and face their fears. The Hulk was that barrier between fear and bravery. And I'm so glad that ever since 1999, Universal, they've maintained this mentality. This mindset is the main reason why we even have coasters like Stardust Racers or Velocicoaster. Universal, they could have easily lied on their back and said, you know what, we're not going to build these adrenaline machines. We're just going to copy Disney and have our biggest roller coaster feature turning. Yeah, lots of turning. No Mosasaurus rolls on our coasters. I hear turning is where it's at. High-intensity roller coasters are the main rides that differentiates Universal from their competition. And it looks like Universal, they have no plans on stopping this. We've already seen Universal's new park going to the UK. We already know they're replacing Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket with a Velocicoaster-inspired attraction, essentially building another multi-launch from Intamin. The point is, the future of these types of rides is looking bright. So why am I saying that the Hulk marked the end of an era for Universal? Even though I've already established that Universal, they clearly still want to build high-thrill roller coasters. The reason why I'm saying that the Hulk was a historic shift for Universal is because I don't see Universal working with a certain company anymore. A company that's quite large in the roller coaster market, Bolliger & Maviard, or B&M. They are a company who completely dominated the roller coaster market in the 90s and the 2000s. But I don't see Universal working with them ever again, or at least not as much. And truthfully, I think that's a good thing. Even though B&M gave Universal some of their most iconic rides ever, I believe their time is unfortunately up. And I'm fine with that. I'm perfectly content with Universal cutting ties with B&M. And here's why. For one, competition. There are a lot of roller coaster manufacturers out there, and most of them are better than B&M. B&M, they are a company who don't build bad rides per se, but they don't build great rides either. A lot of coasters they develop are just average. Very few of them reach that elite status. Don't get me wrong, there are diamonds in the rough, like their Giga coasters, their flying coasters, and especially their inverted coasters. Ooh, I love their inverts. But other than those, every other coaster from this manufacturer is fine. They're not going to leave a lasting impression. They're not going to be your favorite coaster. They're more filler. This is the filler company. The main reason you get a roller coaster from B&M is because 1, they have mass appeal, most of the time the public will enjoy them, but 2, and most importantly, they're reliable. Even if these rides aren't going to be the fan favorite, it doesn't matter because they're reliable. There is a small chance these coasters will ever break down, and an even smaller chance that they're going to be a maintenance nightmare. There is a reason why only 2 B&Ms have ever been taken out in existence, and that's because there's never a reason to take out a B&M coaster. They're likely not going to cost that much in maintenance fees. The attendance for these rides are usually consistent, and they don't really offend anyone in any way. So why take out these coasters unless you want to make room for something else? Not to mention, they're capacity monsters. These rides are notorious for their high throughput. They can easily keep the line moving, get thousands upon thousands of people on the ride every single day. And again, they hardly ever break down, so you're rarely going to get any frustrated guests who weren't able to get on the ride. Frankly, it seems like this roller coaster manufacturer is every park's wet dream. I feel like I'm sucking them off too much. So why do I say Universal they're never going to go with them again? Well, when it comes to competition, B&M, they don't really have the market in a stranglehold anymore. Yeah, they were dominating the market over 20 years ago, but they've substantially slowed down ever since, because other competitors like Intamin, Mach, Gerstlauer, they've substantially stepped up their game. Most of these manufacturers have created their own high-ticket products that every park wants their hands on. Intamin multi-launches, Gerstlauer Infinity coasters, Mack Ride multi-launches. Meanwhile, B&M, they're not innovating enough. One of the reasons why B&M is such a reliable company is because they don't take a lot of risks. They take so little risk, in fact, that they don't have a big enough portfolio of rides to choose from. Think about every single B&M model that exists. The Invert, the Flyer, the Wing, the Dive. When I mention all these models, they seem like a very diverse company, but when you look at other manufacturers, like Intamin, oh, it's not even a competition. They have way more models in their catalog. Like the Prefab, the Multi-Launch, the Mega Coaster, the Impulse, their own wing coaster, the Zack Spin, all the flat rides and water rides they offer as well. They are a very risk-intensive company. They are willing to try something new. If a park wants a product and they don't have it in their catalog, they'll just make a new division. They'll research and develop a new roller coaster type. And most of the time, they do fail, and that's okay. But it's usually that one model that doesn't fail that becomes their next big product. Like their Spike and new multi-launch coasters, those are going everywhere now. Compare that to B&M, where today, basically all they're selling are wing and dive coasters. 2 coaster models that a lot of people enjoy, but I'm pretty about. And if parks want to buy these, then fine, go ahead. They can do whatever they want. But if these are the only coasters they want to buy from B&M, then B&M, they have a bit of a problem. Because once they completely saturate the market, then what are they going to sell? If B&M doesn't innovate and create new coaster types, then they're going to cease to exist. That's why lately B&M, they've been trying to experiment, invest more time into their family coasters, and new projects like their surf coaster. They need more rides to offer that they can later sell. Sadly, however, I don't think Universal is interested. None of B&M's coaster types really fit Universal's needs anymore. Universal, they've already tried their hand at building ride types like the B&M Invert, and that thing is long gone. So what would Universal even get next from this company? A wing coaster? Possibly. A dive? No, that's already at Busch Gardens Tampa. Surf coaster? That's at SeaWorld. A hyper coaster? That's also at SeaWorld. A flyer? SeaWorld. B&M, they already ran into the problem I was fearful of. They saturated the market. So what are they going to sell to Universal? They have nothing left to offer. So why would Universal want to buy? It's in their better interest to go with a different company. But even if B&M, they created a brand new coaster that became the new flavor of the month that every park wanted to buy, who's to say Universal would even want it? B&M, yes, they are a reliable company, but they're also pretty frustrating to work with. B&M, like I said earlier, they are not risk takers, which means they are not flexible. They will only build coasters for a select group of parks that meet their exact criteria. For example, if a park they wanted to build a roller coaster on a certain plot of land, but if that land doesn't align with B&M's qualifications, they will refuse the project. Or maybe if a park they want to make one element on a ride more intense than B&M is comfortable with, they will flat out refuse. Sure, B&M over the last few years, they have tried to be more accommodating with parks. Still, they're not on the level of risk takers. They're more cautious than anything, and this could potentially scare off future buyers. Flexibility is key, and that's why Universal, they would prefer to go with a company like Intamin. Intamin seems to be Universal's new go-to. They are the most accommodating, risk-taking company I know. And their rides, they are the best. They are so fun. If only that translated into reliability. Obviously, with Intamin, it's known that their rides have their fair share of problems. I remember when a coaster like Hagrid's first opened, and it was a mess. The coaster broke down constantly, and it took years for the ride to become more manageable. But in the end, it worked out. And Hagrid's is the most popular ride at Universal, along with their other Intamin multi-launch, Velocicoaster. These rides are high risk, but high reward. And you don't really get that with B&M. If you want to get a ride that's low risk, then go with this company. But if you want a coaster that's actually going to put your park on the map, then go with Intamin or Mack. And that's what Universal did. They haven't worked with B&M in a long time. At the Universal Orlando properties, they haven't worked with B&M since the redo of The Incredible Hulk in 2016. And that was a redo of a pre-existing attraction, so technically it's not a new roller coaster. So they haven't truly worked with B&M on a new project since the creation of the Hulk and Dueling Dragons back in 1999. They were going to work with them again back in 2006 to 2008 when they were building Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit. However, B&M, they kind of fumbled the bag on this one because they wouldn't accommodate Universal. They told Universal that if they want a new coaster, they gotta wait 5 years. Yeah, they waitlisted Universal. And Universal, they didn't want to wait around. So they went with another company, Mauer. Who? Was that the right decision? Debatable. Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit is trash, and it's rough and slow and has a bunch of block breaks and is now being torn out in September of this year. So perhaps it would have been better if Universal waited for B&M so they can get their Hollywood Dream clone. But now that they're taking out Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit and they're likely going to replace it with a ride that's better than either iteration of Rip Ride, Universal, they definitely chose the better long-term decision in terms of guest perspective, because I want an Intamin multi-launch. The point being, if B&M, they can't innovate and create new models, or they can't accommodate for what Universal wants, then I'm sorry, they're not going to be able to play in the market anymore. And I don't even want them to try to compete anymore, which would be a bad thing, but honestly, I don't even want to see a new B&M at Universal. Not only does B&M not innovate enough, but the rides have gotten drastically worse over time. It's pretty known today that B&M, they don't build their rides like they used to. Today, new coasters from them, they got a shake, a vibration, they're a little rough. Long story short, their new coasters don't ride like new coasters. Why would Universal buy a coaster from B&M when they know they're gonna get a rougher product than before? I've heard people try to excuse B&M's shortcomings by trying to make up excuses like, oh, the reason they have to sacrifice the quality of their coasters is because steel has gotten too expensive and labor has become a financial burden. So B&M, in terms, have had to sacrifice quality in order to lower their prices for their clientele. What kind of mentality is that? No! Parks should not buy a B&M product if B&M is willing to sacrifice quality. If B&M today can't produce a ride that they developed over 20 years ago, then why would a company like Universal work with them? Just think about the opportunity cost. So Universal, they can go with a B&M coaster, one that a park in the area probably already has, because again, the market is very oversaturated, and it's likely that if they do go with them, they're gonna get a rougher product compared to a coaster that they already purchased from them back in the 90s. Or they can go with a different manufacturer that is maybe cheaper, can give them a smoother ride, and could be an even more popular ride experience. Universal, they are among the upper echelon of parks. They are one of the top most sought after clients, and they only want to buy the highest quality attractions they can. So do you think they're really going to go with a company that has gotten progressively worse over time? What if they ever wanted to redo the Hulk again in 2033 when it hits the end of its service life again? Does Universal want to spend all that money to retrack and redo that ride again? But this time it might be a little worse than the last time they retracked it? Or heck, it might be just as rough as it was before. Where's the upside? If B&M continues on the path they're following, then I wouldn't be surprised that if in 2033, Universal, they just opt out of the racetrack and decide to get rid of the Hulk. They're done, they want to move on, they get rid of the coaster, and they go with a different manufacturer for a completely different ride. Perhaps a manufacturer that they've worked with for years and they keep going back to. Like Intamin. Intamin right now, they have a stranglehold on Universal. Universal, they keep coming back for more, and the public, they love what Intamin has been building. So if B&M truly can't compete anymore, then that's it. The relationship between these two companies is over. At least for the time being. As much as I want to say that Universal, they will never work with B&M again, never is a long time. I wouldn't go that far. There is ample opportunity for B&M to make some changes. And if not the Universal Orlando parks, maybe B&M can work with the other Universal properties. After all, Universal, they did work with B&M to build Decepticoaster, a one-for-one clone of the Hulk back in 2021. Not quite sure why they didn't go with an original layout, but hey, it's something. And if we look at the concept art for Universal Great Britain, they may be building another B&M over there. As of right now, it's hard to say, but it might be. But if we just strictly look at Orlando, I don't see Universal working with this company anymore. The market's too saturated in Orlando, other manufacturers are more accommodating towards Universal, and B&M, they're not the same manufacturer as they were way back when. So for the time being, Universal, they're gonna continue exploring other avenues.